Yes, thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, I think it's session 21. It could be 20. I think it's 21, but we're just going to know. The last one was a week ago. It was a week ago that we did this. So page 38 in the blue book. This is, we finished up talking about, good evening, everybody. We finished up talking about Henry Ford and asking somebody, they asked a group of students to define Ford's wealth. And we ended up with the organized knowledge of the Ford organization, about 75% of Ford's total wealth. The value, the cash value, and the physical assets of every nature, including raw and finished materials, 25%. So the stuff, all of the land, all of the buildings, all of the materials, all of the equipment, 25% of Ford's total wealth, right? But the knowledge, the organized knowledge, was about 75% of Ford's wealth. So that was a pretty keen observation by that student. The author is of the opinion that this statement was not compiled by a young man whose name was signed to it without assistance of some very analytical and experienced mind or minds. Unquestionably, the biggest asset Henry Ford has is his own brain. Next to this would come to the brains of his immediate circle of associates, for it has been through coordination of these that the physical assets which he controls were accumulated. Destroy every plant the Ford Motor Company owns, every piece of machinery, every atom, of raw or finished material, every finished automobile, every dollar on deposit in any bank, and Ford would still be the most powerful man economically on earth. The brains which have built the Ford business could duplicate it again in short order. Capital is always available. Capital is always available. Capital is always available in unlimited quantities to brains such as Ford's. Ford is the most powerful man on earth economically, in quotations, in parentheses, because he has the keenest and most practical conception of the principle of organized knowledge of any man on earth. And as far as the author has the means of knowing it. Despite Ford's great power and financial success, it may be that he has blundered often in the application of the principles through which he accumulated this power. Despite Ford's great power and financial success, it may be that he has blundered often in the application of the principles through which he accumulated the power. Somebody tell me what that means. What's it mean to you? Testing 1, 2, 3. What's that mean to you?
Does it mean that through his mistakes he learned?
Yeah, he blundered in the application of the principles. One of the greatest stories is the V8 motor. The engineer said, "Can't be done. Can't be done, Mr. Ford. Do it. Can't be done. Do it. Can't be done. Do it. Can't be done. Do it. Do it, or I'll find somebody else to do it." So there's blunders in the application. This is the key that rings cathedral bells for me. He may blunder in the application of the principles. If he's going to step into the frontier, he may be doing certain things, but the blunder is not doing them in a certain way. Does that make sense?
Oh, so the application was right. I mean, what he was going to apply, it was the way I get it. Oh, right.
Yeah, see?
Wow.
So often it may be that he has blundered often in the application of the principles through which he accumulated this power. Wait a minute. So he's got the power. Here's the thing: when I do interviews on stage with people in network marketing, typically, I'll say everybody wants what you got, but nobody's willing to do what you did. So he has definitely blundered Nobody accumulates that wealth the first time. Now, the funny thing is, I think Elon Musk or somebody said, because of AI, there'll be a solopreneur billionaire. Can you imagine that? One person in one company that's just one person themselves will become a billionaire. Right now, it's unfathomable. So, but on the journey to the power of the properly applied principles, there's lots of screw ups. How do we know that? What do we say about Edison? I've heard it now. I've read different old stories that were closer to the age of Edison, that he only did about 6,000 times the light bulb before he got it to work. Not 9,000. I think somebody marketed that at 9,999 times. But he applied the principle. Let's just say it was 6,000. 6,000 times he applied the principle correctly or incorrectly? Incorrectly, with a lesson. A lesson to learn how to apply it better. That's literally 6,000 ways of doing things. It wasn't about the doing things 6,000 times. It was the way of doing it once in a certain way. And that's the thing we have to hold on to. That's the thing we have to hold to. It's to do it once in a certain way. Right? When families want to have babies. Gizmo may have practiced a lot, but I think he got it on the first try. I mean, they're only 2 weeks apart, and that could be their cycles. So the rest of it was just practice. Does that make sense? This part about the blundered in the application of the principles. There is but little doubt that Ford's methods of mind coordination have often been crude. Okay, hang on. They must needs have been in the earlier days of this experience. There's but little doubt that Ford's methods of mind coordination have been crude. They must needs have been in earlier days of this experience before he gained the wisdom of application that would naturally go with the maturity of years. Neither can there be much doubt that Ford's application of the principle of mind chemistry was, at least at the start, the result of an alliance with other minds, particularly the mind of Edison. Could you imagine hanging around with Edison? All right. It is more than probable that Mr. Ford's remarkable insight into the laws of nature was first begun as a result of his friendly alliance with his own wife long before he ever met either Mr. Edison or Mr. Firestone. Many a man who never knows the real source of his success made by his wife through the application of the mastermind principle. You realize there wouldn't be a Ford Motor Company without her, right? You all read the story that he needed $800 or $400 and he didn't have it. She said, I'll have it. I have it and you can use it. Kind of crazy. Mrs. Ford is the most remarkable, intelligent woman, and this author has reason to believe that it was her mind blended with Mr. Ford's, which gave him the first real start toward power. It may be mentioned, without in any way depriving Ford of his honor and glory, that in his earlier days of experience, he had to combat with the powerful enemies of illiteracy and ignorance to a greater extent than did either Edison or Firestone, both of whom were gifted by nature, by natural heredity, with the most fortunate aptitude for acquiring and applying knowledge. Ford had what, third grade education? How does somebody make it? How does somebody go through? Where do they get the drive from? I mean, I made it through high school. I know I knew how to read, and I know how to learn. I just didn't want to learn any of that stuff. Wherein both of whom were gifted naturally with hereditary acquiring and applying knowledge. Ford had to hew this talent out of the rough, raw timbers of his hereditary estate. So hewing, right, was when you literally take the knife and you drag it over the logs and scrape off the bark and stuff. Within an inconceivably short period of time, Ford has mastered three of the most stubborn enemies of mankind and transformed them into assets constituting the foundation of his success. These enemies are ignorance, illiteracy, and poverty. So, go ahead. Somebody have a question, comment, thought? Take away. One of the things literacy is probably still a very big challenge. Most people know how to read, but I think in today's economy, is most people are illiterate when it comes to people. They don't know how to read people. And therefore, we never are capable of crossing over into that phrase of people they know, they like, and they trust. There's a lot of people who are liking the heck out of stuff on social media. Like this, like that, love this, like that, like. There, we got like down. We don't have knowing or knowledge of, and we definitely don't have trust. So when you show up with those two, the ability to read people, to be present, one of the things that Sharon, when I was watching Barbara, was there are some huge hiccups in her world based upon the way her body shrank and the way her hands went to her face and different things. Not the appropriate time to have that conversation. But yeah, she told me where all of her blocks were because I am literate when it comes to human people, human nature. I don't know. Is there anything other human, other things other than people?
When is it appropriate? Because if somebody doesn't know enough to ask, how do you break through faster?
So what I would say is, hey, listen, you realize that one of the things, I don't know if I told you, is that neuroencoding. You know, when you're an actor, you need to play the part. So if you're depressed, you need to put your body in a depressed state to play that actor the best, right? The challenge is that all too often that we as communicators are acting, right? Our body acts out our intentions and our emotions, even though our words say something different, which comes to that phrase, who you are speaks so loud, but I don't need to hear the words coming out of your mouth. So if it's appropriate at some time that you would like me to share with you where I saw some big blocks or hookups or hangups, I think they're easily repaired and easily transformed. I'd love to have that conversation. So these enemies are ignorance, illiteracy, and poverty. Any man who can stay the hand of these three savage forces, much less harness and use them to good account, is well worth close study by the less fortunate individuals. There is a 6-day seminar in that sentence. Any man who can stay the hand, what are they talking about, stay the hand? The cards dealt you, right? Stay the hand. Can you stay in playing or do you fold? So he's saying stay the hand. Can you continue? Can you play these three things? Ignorance, which Ford had in buckets. Illiteracy, he had in buckets. And poverty, he had in buckets. Any man who can stay the hand of these three savage forces. What's the thing that 98% of the population teach? Poverty. Much less harness and use them to good account. So he was able to, right? The seed of every success comes, the seed in every failure comes the seed of its own success. So in ignorance, he used it to his advantage. What's the opposite of ignorance? Specialized knowledge. Now, he only learned how to do specialized knowledge in manufacturing. He didn't learn how to go mine gold or do any of that stuff, right? When they interviewed Ford and they wanted to belittle him in court, do y'all know this story? They wanted to belittle him in court. I think it's later on in this book they talk about it. Belittle him in court by asking him, when was Charlemagne the king of France or whatever it was? They asked him all these kinds of crazy questions and he didn't know. And then he went along with it till he had enough. He said, I have a row of buttons on my desk. I can get anybody to answer any one of these questions to a level that you would be blown away. My job isn't to know the answers to all of these questions. My job is to find where I can get the answers. So that's why whatever the skill was, whatever the blessing was, whatever the thing was, and usually behind a very strong man is even a more powerful woman. That's how he was able to use them to good account. Ignorance, illiteracy, and poverty. This is the age of industrial power that we are living in. Now we're living in a different world of power. The source of all this power is organized effort. That is still true. Not only has the management of industrial enterprises efficiently organized individual workers, but in many instances, mergers of industry have been effected in such a manner that to the end that these combinations, as in the case of the United States Steel Corporation, for example, have accumulated practically unlimited power. Charles Schwab made 600 million? No, a ridiculous number for his associate, not Charles. I don't think it was the Charles Schwab of Schwab. It might be. It would make sense. But simply because he made the conversations and made the arrangements of the connections of the United States Steel Corporation, he amassed an amazing amount of money simply because he was there. What does that say? Yep. One may hardly glance at any news of the day's events without seeing a report of some business, industrial, or financial merger bringing under one management enormous resources and thus creating great power. One day it is a group of banks, another day it is a chain of railroads, the next day it's a combination of steel plants, all merging for the purpose of developing power through highly organized and coordinated effort. Knowledge, general in nature and unorganized, is not power. Knowledge, in its general nature and unorganized, is not power. It is only potential power, the material out of which real power may be developed. Any modern library contains an unorganized record of all knowledge of value, which is the present stage of civilization. Present stage of civilization is there. Any modern library contains an unorganized record of all the knowledge of value to which the present stage of civilization is there. But this knowledge is not power because it is not organized. So, Sharon, you witnessed that with Barbara in our previous conversation. She has a tremendous amount of knowledge, massive, makes me look like a neophyte compared to what she's done. But hers is unorganized. Mine's organized. I have power in what I do because it's organized knowledge.
And it's almost like there's some thing inside me that mixes up my organization, my organized knowledge, so that I hold myself back. It's because I see it. I see what you just saw with you and with Barbara, And she said she made a bazillion people millionaires. And I said, so how come you're not? When we were talking. And she said, because it's not something that I ever wanted. And I thought, yes and no,
Well, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, right?
Right.
The creator of
Right.
Flow. She wasn't in Flow.
Right.
If people around me are becoming millionaires, I'm on that bus. Right? It's simply by association. So, who is that? Hello, Jamison. Every form of energy and every species of animal or plant life to survive must, this is so good, must be organized. When we get disease, it's a body not at ease, it's disorganized. Disease is disorganization of the body. That's all it is. Sometimes it's a big all that is. Relationships break down because they're not organized. Communication breaks down because it's not organized. Dog bites you because the relationship isn't organized. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
every form of energy and every species of animal and plant life. This is why when I plant a tomato, I ain't going to sit there and go, I hope it's a tomato. I hope a peach tree. Last time I planted, I got a pecan tree. How the hell did I plant a tomato and get a pecan tree? No, because the tomato is organized. It doesn't have the ability to go, oh, I don't want to work today. No, it's organized. It does what it's supposed to do. That's why words are so powerful. Words have organization. The oversized animals whose bones have filled nature's boneyards through extinction have left mute but certain evidence that non-organization means annihilation. From the electron to the smallest the smallest particle of matter, to the our guest star, to the biggest star in the universe. I'm going to say biggest star in the universe. We're modifying the language. These and every material thing in between these two extremes offer proof positive that one of nature's first laws is that of organization. Fortunate is the individual who recognizes the importance of the law and makes it his business to familiarize himself with the various ways in which the law may be applied to advantage. The astute businessman has not only organized the importance of the law of organized effort, but he has made this law the warp and the woof of his power. Now, you'll have to Google warp and woof. But that's the inside and the outside of it, right? The astute businessman has not only recognized the importance of the law of organized effort, but he has made this law the warp and the woof of his power. Without any knowledge whatsoever, the principle of mind chemistry, or that such a principle exists, many men have accumulated great power by merely organizing the knowledge they possess.
So you're talking about weaving the fabric of the knowledge. That's what warp and woof is. Weaving it.
So this is why we have to have our evidence file. Listen, one of the things that I know that I'm blessed is that I do a lot of these things unconsciously. Evidence file. It's your organized knowledge. You have to have your organized knowledge that you're capable of great things. Otherwise, how are you going to do the next great thing? Are you waiting on luck? Are you waiting on chance? Are you waiting on just the possibility that maybe at some point, somewhere, maybe sometime in the future, you'll figure this thing out? The majority of all who have discovered the principle of mind chemistry and developed the principle into the mastermind have stumbled upon this knowledge by the merest of accident, often failing to recognize the real nature of their discovery or to understand the source of their power. This author is of the opinion that all living persons who at the present time are consciously making use of the principle of mind chemistry in developing power through the blending of minds may be counted on with fingers, may be counted on the fingers of two hands, with perhaps several fingers left to spare. The majority of all who have discovered the principle of the mastermind of the mind chemistry and developed the principle into the mastermind have stumbled upon this knowledge by the merest of accident, often failing to recognize the real nature of their discovery or to understand the source of their power. The author is of the opinion that all living persons who at the present time are consciously making use of this principle of mind chemistry in developing powers through the blending of minds may be counted on the fingers of the two hands with perhaps several fingers left to spare. How is this not being taught? We know why it's not being taught. Because the people who don't want it taught don't want to lose the power. The opinion of the author says that the people who are consciously using the mastermind and mind chemistry, using organized knowledge, can be counted on two hands with some fingers left over. If this estimate is even approximately true, the student will readily see that there is but slight danger of the field. There's but slight danger of the field of mind chemistry practice being overcrowded. If the estimate is approximately true, the student will readily see that there is but slight danger of the field of mind chemistry practice becoming overwhelmed, overcrowded. It is a well-known fact that one of the most difficult tasks that any businessman must perform is that of inducing those who are associated with him to coordinate their efforts in a spirit of harmony. Harmony and ivory live together in No, that wasn't Harmony and Ivory. What was it? Ebony and Ivory. I'll figure it out. That's my story. It is a well-known fact that one of the most difficult tasks that any businessman must perform is that of inducing those who are associated with him to coordinate their efforts in a spirit of harmony. To induce continuous cooperation between a group of workers or children in any undertaking is next to impossible. Only the most efficient leaders can accomplish this highly desired object. But once in a great while, such a leader will rise above the horizon in the field of industry, business, or finance, and then the world hears of a Henry Ford, a Thomas Edison, a John D. Rockefeller, a Harriman or James Hill. Power and success are practically synonymous terms. We're going to end there. Q&A. What do you get from this? 6, 11, 24. What's your takeaway from this? This is huge. Some of that stuff was just mind-blowing.
What really caught me, and it's back a few paragraphs, is with the the warp and the woof, is that all this time in reading about and him talking about organized knowledge, specialized knowledge and organized, I always have it in a list, like a priority list. And that really meant a lot to me, that it's woven together that it makes something more powerful. Because when you have a list like that, it can be ripped apart so easily. But when it's a warp and a woof, it's bonded. It's very strong. I just, it's the first time it just really resonated with me. I love that.
So I'm also hearing that with this awareness comes a sense of ease.
Yes.
That it's not this one first, that one next. It's, what does it say in the Bible? 3 strands woven together can't be broken.
Yes. Oh, did I put the right one first? Oh, maybe that's not right. Maybe oh, I better think about this. Stop. Can't move on till you get that right. That's not what it's about. I love it. I love it.
And so back to the phrase of the application of the principles, he probably messed them up royally.
Well, it's not easy to thread a
Balloon.
a loom. Thank you. I was going to tell you it in French, but it didn't make any sense. It's not easy, and sometimes a thread will break, and it doesn't show up until a little bit later. But oh my goodness, it's not a mistake. It's just like the application. The principle is fine, is strong. The thread is strong. It just needs to be put in the right way. Anyway, it just
Essential foundation.
sorry.
I said the essential foundation.
Absolutely.
Bert Goldman calls those the source foundation. Everything in life is woven together. If you go back, the big things that happened in your life can be traced back to something small that put you on that path. Right? Me marrying Michelle was me opening up an envelope in Puerto Rico in a Volvo car that I was driving to see a picture. A Polaroid picture was the source foundation. It put me on a different path. The envelope didn't. It's my mother. My mother sent me something. What was inside the envelope did. Changed the course of my life forever. But the source foundation was, for me, the Polaroid. For my mom was something else, handing out laminated pictures of her baby child, which was embarrassing to all get up. But that's a whole other story. But when I saw all of the pictures put on the gift table of all of the women who had laminated pictures of me in their purse, those were applications that didn't work well. Those were applications that were screwed up. But one of them worked. My mom was smart enough to plant enough seeds. Brad, you had your hand up, brother? Hello, Jonathan.
No, I was laughing at you.
Oh. Who else? Thoughts, comments, questions? Sharon, you have a hand up? Yes.
Yeah, I just had the thought while you were talking about that the pattern of judgment and fear of doing it wrong and all of that is really a distraction from seeing the tapestry that is being created. And so even when we make decisions, we follow paths that we think are the right ones, we can learn from them and course correct. But if we don't learn from them, we just get stuck in the contraction around it, we lose the value of, I lose the value of what I've just been learning. So it's very powerful to look at it from this angle of it's all there, and learning how to do things in a certain way. It will click in if you keep that as in the forefront. But if you just sort of, then you can do that your whole life.
Yep, absolutely. And that's why it's so important for us to keep a record. So we know what works and what doesn't work. The reason Edison only didn't have to go 20,000 times is because he knew what worked and what he tried. He wasn't repeating the failures. He was tweaking the failures. Okay, that didn't work. I do that. That didn't work. Okay, yes, I did that, but now I did this and with that, and it's the combination. So love it, love it, love it. Ooh, we're having something with green peppers. I smelled green peppers cooking from some green peppers came out of the garden. That's awesome. The garden, we had a zucchini that was the size of my arm. I'm gonna, it's awesome, awesome. Who else? Thoughts, comments, questions, takeaways? Swallow house. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I also thought the that statement, every form of energy and every species of animal or plant life to survive must be organized. And when you explained it, it really resonated.
Right? So what do we say that we all have cancer in our bodies now? It's when it mutates, disorganized,
Yeah.
right? We don't, oh, by the way, for those of you that are a part of the Life Navigator, I just put up a video, a 22-minute video where Joe Dispenza, and Sharon, you might have seen it already. Joe Dispenza had science and research do where meditation kept people from getting COVID. They literally saw the science down to the cellular level, down to the and how it improved their meditation, where the COVID got onto the cell but couldn't get into the cell because of the markers that meditation, high level meditation, brought into the body, and it kept them healthy. Unbelievable. So that's in the back office under bonus resources. So yeah, it's cool how everything is organized. And how the pests, right? There's something Michelle, I ordered, I don't know what I ordered. I ordered something that came in sawdust and eggs that you hang out, and these things come out and they attack flies. They're like the fly troopers, and so, but they have to hatch in your anyways. So I was reading the rest of this, and it's talking about all of these different bugs that can live in harmony. Ladybugs are like massive for aphids. And then there's another bug that eats something else, but praying mantis. Praying mantis don't eat ladybugs. Did you know that? They'll eat all other bugs, but they won't eat ladybugs. So that's organized knowledge. That's organized working in organization to keep your garden. I didn't know praying mantis didn't eat ladybugs. So everything works in organized. Why do you think a tree works in better organized knowledge than we do, or a tomato plant? Because it doesn't have ego. Did you know free will runs out? We always have it. We just exhaust our ability to use it. So we say, I have free will. You do, but you wore it out. You don't believe in it anymore. So we lose our organized knowledge. You have free will to use this information to elevate yourself. You have free will to use the Bible to elevate yourself. You have free will to use the last 17 nuggets that you wrote down to use it to take you to the next level. Challenge is that sometimes our free will, it gets tired. We have to find a way to recharge that. Anyone else? Thoughts, comments, questions, takeaways? I'm going to see how long we've been here. To get it, tape measure. It's been a day. It's been a day. Been a good day. It's been a day.
So I was really focused on
Show us the claw.
the
Oh my God.
no,
I'm like your big brother. Show us the claw. Show us the claw. Go ahead.
I don't want to anymore. Okay, I was really focused on the paragraph. Ford is the most powerful man on earth economically because he has the keenest and most practical conception of the principle of organized knowledge. And I kept reading that over and over and over and thinking, how did he just have the most practical conception? Conception is the beginning. Like, where does that come from? Like you were saying, why him? What was going on? And then I know you read this many, like, despite the next paragraph, despite Ford's great power and financial success, it may be that he has blundered often in the application of the principles through which he accumulated this power. And as I kept reading this over and over and over, I'm wondering if that second paragraph actually precedes the first one. So even though he's the most powerful man on earth, he has the keenest and most practical conception. Is that because he blundered?
Yeah, you can't sharpen a saw without putting it against metal. And if you've ever seen anybody make a sword, when they dip it and quench it, which is one of the processes, when you come out of the fire and you get quenched, you can shatter. And people have done that. And he shattered. The thing that I think that kept Ford focused, two things. One, his wife, not wanting to let her down. She might have been a witch on a broomstick. It never says that in any books, but I don't think she was that nature. The second thing is that he had his definite major purpose. I will succeed. All of this is temporary. He had a definite major purpose in place. I don't know if he used gratitude. I don't know if he was of the nature of it's already done. One of the things you'll find, even Henry Ford and Hill, there's a lot of spirituality in all of this. I'm not saying religion, although it probably is, but a lot of spirituality. There's a lot of faith in the unseen. And maybe he had a wildly competitive spirit in him. I want to be first. I want to be first. I'm going to be first. I'm going to do something that's never been done. Most people don't have the stamina to stay in long enough to be first. Now, was he at a time where there wasn't a whole lot of auto manufacturers happening? It's the same thing of the Roger Bannister moment. Do y'all know what they said? What would happen to your heart if you ran a 4-minute mile? Anybody know what the scientists, the doctors was all saying would happen? Your heart would explode. So I'm going to go break the 4-minute mile and kill myself doing it. Maybe he ran it and didn't know he broke the 4-minute mile. I don't know. I didn't talk to Roger before he suited up for that track meet. But one of the things that I know that my family had experienced is that nobody told us we couldn't. So we did things in the steel fabrication world. We did things in the specialty coatings world with sprayable urethanes and ultra high durometer urethanes and ultra abrasive urethanes. We did things that nobody told us we couldn't do it. But when we told them we did it, they said, there's no way you could do that. We're like, we did a dozen of them. Really? Had we hung around those, one of the things, and maybe it was Earl Nightingale. I don't remember reading it in Hill. Maybe it was. But you know the story of the hot dog vendor? Have you ever heard that story? The hot dog vendor at the rest stop. He was at a rest stop on the highway, and he was this hot dog vendor, and he was doing great. And then some guy comes along and says, oh my God, well, how are you still in business? Don't you know the economy is crashing? And he was already in a crashed economy, but he was doing great. But then his mind took over and he went out of business. So how many of the things that you want to go do have you been told already you can't do them? That, I think, is the difference. When he blundered, he didn't know it was a blunder. He just said that didn't work. Right? I know if I went to go play Bach's 1812 Overture, I would know it's not the 1812 Overture because I know what the 1812 Overture sounds like. Now, I could do the drums, when the cannons fire, kaboom. Well, I can do that, but I can't play any instrument to play the 1812 overture. Now, I can, if I didn't know, somebody says, play the 1812 overture, I could do that. And if I just picked up the guitar or drums or whatever, I go, no, that's the 1812 overture. That's my version of the 1812 overture. So when we say he blundered the principles, we have to, and this is where we sit, if we go back into, this is Hill and the editors speaking about Ford. But what was Ford thinking? Did he think he blundered? He just said, or did he just say that didn't work? It wasn't even a failure. That just doesn't work. I got to keep going. So I love the concept and the question and the dialogue around that. Did he become the rich? Yes, because he had enough evidence. He had enough failures that who would Jim Rohn say? There's never a traffic jam on the extra mile. We're all going to wind up in traffic. We're all going to wind up in traffic jams. We're all going to wind up where everybody else stops. That's where it's the most crowded, is where everybody else stops. And we're like, well, shit, nobody's leaving here. I guess I'm going to stop too. It's just that one more step where you go, oh, hey, where is everybody? Did any of that rambling help? Slowly.
Yep.
I gotta pay $1 for every word. Yep.
And that last sentence, the last sentence of that paragraph, before he gained the wisdom of application that would naturally go with maturity of years. And that's going that extra mile.
And this is where, so here's the thing, here's another thing to put in our squirrel caps. He didn't have a mentor. When Ford talks about organizing his lieutenants in organized knowledge and in harmony, and Carnegie talks about 22 people, 26 people working in perfect harmony, they become the mentor to get people to work in harmony because they're doing things they didn't know they could do. I can promise you at the time, and even today, those 22 people have no idea they can work in harmony. They had no idea what that even meant to work in harmony. A mentor had to provide that awareness. I think it's why a lot of network marketing companies struggle today. The owner is a visible piece, and there's no harmony. There's no harmony between customer service and the owner, and between everybody. It's just it's lacking harmony of the organized knowledge of what it takes to take care of their field. My 2 cents. It's a story I'm going to be telling and selling. Who else? Thoughts, comments, questions, takeaways? Do you realize we have 20 plus hours? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
While you're counting, Sean, did you say Ford did not have a mentor?
Who was his mentor? He never talks about it, right? We know that Jim Rohn talks about Earl Shelf.
So what I was thinking about was, or did he? Is that where spirituality comes?
And prayer and all of this other stuff that, yeah, absolutely. But he's never, in any of the books I've read and any of this stuff, we never hear about his mentor. Now we hear about Napoleon Hill's mentor, Charles Hennell, which we never knew about, and Elsie Benedict something. But these were mentors before these people, before these household names occurred. So Hill was at the right time. We're publishing and everything else. But all of these other people, there's a 1,000-page book of the 13 different stories that, who is it? It wasn't Hanel, it was somebody else. I mean, it's amazing. Now, was he reading any of that stuff? Probably. Was it, I mean, Elsie Benedict, I think it's Elsie Benedict. She was the most profound female public speaker of her time in 1918. Spoke in front of 500,000 people. Are you kidding me? At every lunch counter and I'm sure Ford knew these people. I'm sure he gained some common sense. And if the little green book came off of a tablet hidden in the time of Egypt, all of this stuff was available.
There's nothing new under the sun.
Not a thing new under the sun, just the syntax, the organized way in which it's developed. Isn't this good? I mean, I enjoy this.
This conversation is perfect for me tonight. It gives me the courage to keep on going in the direction that I'm headed. That's gonna work. I just have to keep on doing it
I love it. And do it in a certain way. So keep tweaking.
in a certain way.
Keep
Keep
tweaking.
Yeah.
Twerking. You and your twerking. Keep tweaking.
Look at that beautiful picture of Amber and her son.
Bunch of amazing studs over there. All right, everybody, there you go. There's another lesson in law of success.
Thank you, Sean. Thank
You're
you for
welcome.
letting me pop back in.
Yep, absolutely. Love it, love it, love it. All right, everybody, go have an amazing evening. I appreciate you all so very, 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 very much. Thank you for being part of my organized knowledge and mind chemistry. I love it tons. I'm your head brain training, brain scrambling misfit. I'll see y'all where?
At the next event.
Love it, love it, love it. Say goodnight, Michelle.
Good night, Michelle.
Good night, Michelle.
Good night, Michelle.
Good night, everybody. Love you all.
Good night. Love you all.
See you in the morning.
Thank you, Sean.
Ford's wife may have been his mentor.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it.
Okay, thank you. Good night.
Why are you giggling?
Night, Michelle.
Hang on, Michelle had too many giggles. Why are you giggling? Okay, this is like, tune in next week. She said something. I didn't hear you. So.